This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by LibertyFile.com. LibertyFile.com. It's like a libertarian version of Dig. Submit the stories you want to see on the front page and crush the ones you don't. LibertyFile.com. 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 I'm Dave Ridley, and I could power a small city with my griping about the government. But for some reason, government people contact me from time to time to tell me that they're watching and that they're enjoying the Ridley Report, and that they agree with it. That's actually a real honor for somebody like me, who's admittedly a little bit out on the fringe. At least 4 different police officers have contacted me, 2 from New Hampshire, 2 from out of state. And that's over the last 6 months, I would say, and it doesn't count the police officers that I already knew. Of course, not all of them like what I'm doing, and even I don't like what I'm doing sometimes. So it's just real nice to hear from folks who kind of, technically work for the other side. But there's one thing that I keep forgetting to say to all these different cops that call or write me, and that is that, here is what I would urge cops to do when confronting the moral ambiguities of your job. I don't think it's totally appropriate for me to judge cops too harshly for continuing to work in their jobs. I know that the cops are generally asked on a regular basis to enforce victimless crime laws, but unlike some liberty lovers, I try to avoid telling cops to quit their jobs or just condemning them, that sort of thing. I think what I would urge you to do, if you're in a position where you just happen to be a police officer and you happen to know that some of what you're doing is wrong, I think it's probably okay to stay in a job like that, and I'm not sure that it's good for liberty for you to quit, because I'd rather have a pro-liberty cops running around than authoritarian cops running around. And if all the pro-liberty cops were to quit, then you'd just be some authoritarian taking your job. And this is, of course, something a lot of cops will say this themselves. They understand this, and they make that argument for why they continue to work their morally questionable jobs. And it's very difficult. I think it would be difficult for me if I was a cop to say that. I would feel uncomfortable defending myself. But being in an independent position, maybe it's easier for me to say that. Maybe it's easier for me to stick up for the cops who are pro-liberty, who are hanging on to their jobs. Since, I'm one of the many victims of police misconduct, in the sense that I've been jailed once for a victimless crime, distribution of handbills. But do I want the best people who I dealt with in that situation out of the picture? I don't think so. I'd rather have those people continuing to be present in the jails and in the enforcement divisions, rather than just bumped out into the general population. But staying in a job like that does involve some moral responsibility, and I would say, to me, it's enough for me if you're just taking small steps, safe steps within the system to limit the amount of harm that the system is doing to the harmless. I guess to sum it up, I'm saying don't necessarily take any risks, but limit the harm you're doing. Summarizing it even more, I should probably just put it into 2 words: harm reduction. Kind of like if you're a meat eater who feels guilty about the number of cows you're eating, but you're not willing to completely give up meat. Well, you can always reduce somewhat the amount of meat that you're eating. In the same way, I would urge cops to reduce, as much as you safely can, the number of victimless crime arrests that you're making. That's all that I think is appropriate for me to ask of you. Others might ask more. This is Dave Ridley, signing off for RidleyReport.com this January 10th, 2009. LibertyFile.com. 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 LibertyFile.com.